Brockmire has wrapped up its run on IFC, chronicling the journey of a disgraced baseball broadcaster who seeks redemption in several ways. The titular character was played by the legendary Hank Azaria, and he joins us here today. I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby, and the first thing I want to ask you, Hank, is what led to the decision to wrap up the series in the fourth season?
I'm still recovering from being called a legend, so let me just process that. Legend, got it. As a legend, let me answer the question. So why did we see that as the end of season of the 4-season arc? That's really a Joel Church Cooper question. I think we always knew that, or Joel always knew that this guy was going to find his way back to being a human being and a loving, warm human being who could shut up and receive love as well as give it. I think along the way, as real society got stranger over the last 5 years, Joel really got onto the idea of Brockmire as a character who personally got better as the world got worse. And then he saw the way to really bring that home was to sort of flash forward 10, 12 years into the future to make the real fine point of we're looking at society. You know, if society continues the way we're going, here's where we're likely to end up. And if you watch season 4, right in the first 5 minutes, you'll see Joel was wildly precognitive with what he came up with pandemics and riots and baseball dying. And, you know, the low-hanging fruit prediction was it was probably going to be 10 years from now, we can bet it's going to be a lot hotter on planet Earth than it is right now, temperature-wise. But other than that, Joel really called it.
And was it hard for you to say goodbye to this character that you've been playing and building a lore around for all these years?
Not really, no. I don't get sentimental like that about playing characters, and because it's such hard work, and I produce this as well, so there's always a sense of relief. You know, like athletes talk about, you hate losing and you're relieved when you win. It's kind of like that. It's like, phew, thank God we did that, what we set out to do. And I think the character might continue to live. We're putting together a podcast that we hopefully will do. So I think it's a character I'll continue to do in one way or another. But it's so rare that you have the satisfaction of really saying what you want to say, having it come out better than you thought, that I really kind of feel thrilled. And I have a son. My son's 11. I really, maybe if he were off in college or an adult, I'd feel like hanging on to Jim Brockmire, something I want to do, but I'm kind of psyched to have more free time to spend with him. So it's not so hard to let Brockmire go.
Talking about something that happens within the season, Jim becomes the commissioner of baseball, which when I first heard that, I thought to myself, that seems like it's going to be an interesting thing. But when I heard your character say that's the stupidest thing I ever heard, I was like, that could also properly describe it. But in this future that we see that the sport's popularity has plummeted. And you are someone who has a similar love for baseball. We were talking about it before we started recording. Do you worry that the sport could go down a similar trajectory?
I worry about it more now. I mean, I worried about it the last few years. And now, who would have thought that in this fictitious semi-dystopian future where baseball's a year or two away from dying, there'd be more vital baseball in that fictitious world than in the real world that the show was released in 2020. And it looks like the owners and players are going to cobble together some version of a season. But boy, if they didn't, you'd have to really worry. And the jury's still out on all that. I've had a weird journey with baseball. I'm a huge baseball fan. When Joel Church Cooper wrote the first season and all these jokes about how young people don't care about baseball anymore and it's a dying sport, that was kind of news to me in my, old white manosity. I was sort of like, what do you mean? It's baseball. It's the national pastime. He's like, you don't know that less and less young people watch or care about baseball? I'm like, no, I didn't. He's like, yeah, well, Google it. And sure enough, it was true. It is true. And now it's kind of common knowledge. But so I sort of got hip to that as we were shooting this thing. And yeah, I had a similar reaction to Brockmire being commissioner and going 10, 12 years into the future. I said to Joel, but as much as I questioned Joel, is about 4 times I was like, "Are you sure?" It's kind of a big swing, but he felt really strongly about it, and I've learned not to step between him and his muse. And towards the end of season 3, we started doing really social commentary kind of front and center. I was a little worried about that too, but that Joel writes that so well. That worked. I thought those were a couple of the funniest episodes we ever did. So I felt like we were in good hands going down that route, season 4.
Actually, when you bring up season 3, and uh, that brings up something I wanted to ask. You know, at the end of season 2, Jim Brockmire probably has his most consequential thing when he decides to get sober. And that was something that I was very apprehensive about, because so much of the humor came from his being inebriated and
Yeah.
stories about him being inebriated. Did you have, was that one of those moments where you had a bit of apprehension and were like and said to Joel Church Cooper, "Are you sure about this?" when you found out about that change?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, from a comedic professional standpoint, I was so thrilled that we pulled off season 1 with $12 budget and, 22 days to shoot 8 episodes. And we had several 16-page days, which if you're scoring at home is an absurd number of pages to shoot in a day. And so this raunchy, fairly intelligent sex drug comedy that was actually funny, I was thrilled with. And then Joel immediately wanted to switch it up season 2. I'm like, whoa, wait, what do you mean? We only did 8 episodes. Why would you wanted to change the location and focus on his relationship with Charles and not Jules? And I'm like, man, it's so hard to do something right once. Let's do it again. But Joel's really brave that way. And I have to say, and each year he wanted to change it, including Brockmire becoming sober. And I was really worried that wouldn't be funny anymore. But, turns out season 3 might have been our strongest season. And I personally I miss playing drunken, drug-fueled, sexed-up Brockmire. It's more fun. But I must admit, I think the show gained depth and got funnier and smarter as we went along. And, listen, I'm a sober guy in real life. I got sober 14 years ago. So I didn't plan on telling that kind of a story, but I was on a personal level excited to tell it through the eyes of Jim Brockmire, a character I love so much, and one that has such raw truth to it, so I was down. Yeah.
And I think one of the things that really helped with that was, and I can't remember her name, but his broadcasting partner in season 3,
Tawny Newsome.
Yes,
Played
yes,
it, yes.
She was fantastic. But also the relationship that we saw Jim building with his sister, I thought actually brought a wonderful grounding to that.
Yeah, Joel and our team of writers, he has this really deep understanding of, and I don't know where it comes from. He's wise beyond his years. He's a fairly young guy. Of like he innately understands that, an alcoholic, once they're sober, instantly becomes a codependent, which is what you saw play out in seasons 3 and 4 with his family, with his sister, with his mother, with his father, with his daughter eventually. How Joel, I understand that because I sit in rooms and I'm 56 and I go deal with it as a recovering semi-insane sober person. But I don't know where Joel gets this innate insight into the human soul, but I'm grateful that he does, and he's able to write it so beautifully.
And last year, in the previous season, you also had there was also a fantastic guest performer. Well, you had a couple as well, like Martha Plimpton, but you really had a fantastic guest performer in J.K. Simmons, and the scenes that took place specifically between the two of you were really fun to watch. And I'm curious as to what's it like to do a scene one-on-one with an actor like him.
It's amazing. It's what you might imagine. You have like the best seat in the house for a great performance. And by the way, you get to, sort of call and respond with them. It's really fun. That's how I look at, it's one of the things I love about acting. Like I love Amanda Peet's work as well. And people say we have great chemistry in the show. I guess it's true. But all I feel is it's that I'm just really enjoying her performance, and I'm in real time, and I'm just sort of keeping it going as I respond. And I feel really privileged and lucky to get to do that with all these people that you mentioned. And I feel fortunate that I've been at my craft long enough where I can just kind of relax and enjoy acting with people, because I was so, even when I did well early in my career, I was always so fraught and so perfectionistic in the worst sense of the word, and self-critical, and it was like torture. And I think one of the things that comes through, I hope comes through in all of Brockmire, just from my performances, is sort of relaxed joy in the whole thing, which I don't think I would have been capable of even like 10 years ago.
One other thing that I've noticed about some of the characters that you play is that you seem to play a lot of characters that have an affinity for The Godfather. I always think of like Mo on The Simpsons,
Yeah.
narrating the baptism scene from The Godfather to Maggie, or you name the tortoise Clemenza, which I found endearing. And even you said that you based the voice of Mo on the young Al Pacino.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I mean, I know it is a universally loved movie, but does some of that come from your love of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, we built into the short. Originally, Brockmire was a short on Funny or Die 10 years ago, a little bit more. And yeah, him quoting the Brockmire quoting The Godfather, excuse me, was built right into the short, to an absurd degree. Like, fly ball to deep right center field. Johnson settles under it, and look how they massacred my boy. Makes no sense. But he just liked to quote The Godfather, and Joel got a big kick out of that, and so that became a big theme. And I think for men of a certain age, this is a tried and true trope, like obsession with The Godfather, and how it's got all of life's answers. Probably most famously, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. There's a lot of wisdom in The Godfather that men my age cling to, and Brockmire is certainly no exception. But yeah, and Simpsons writers just came up with that for Mo. Mo seems like the kind of guy that would probably look at life through a Godfather lens as
well. We are in the midst of, some, crazy times, as you were saying earlier. But, we do have one of the things that we can, that we can do to help get us through this is we like to think about what are we going to do once things start to get back to normal. And I'm curious for you, as someone who loves baseball, and I have a feeling that, maybe a week or two after it starts opening up, you'll get yourself out to a game. Which two teams would you like to see play each other for your first ball game back in a stadium?
Well, definitely the Mets. I'm a Met fan. I mean, I'd love to see a Met-Yankee game. I'm a New York guy. So a Subway Series would be a delicious first game back for me. But I'll take any version I can get, at home, at a sports bar, anything. My big bright idea to sort of, if you couldn't have fans in the stands, would be to have the local announcers call the game from like a local crowded sports bar. But the flaw in that logic is if people aren't allowed in the stands, they're probably not going to be allowed in the bar either. So there goes that.
And volume control's probably going to be an issue too.
Exactly. But that could be fun,
That's true. Yeah, it's always fun to watch drunk people, watch sober people interact with insanely drunken people.
Exactly. And, drunken, rude people yelling at, Keith Hernandez. I'd get a big kick out of that.
Well, Hank, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best this Emmy season. And to all our viewers, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to get our latest content. And don't forget to go to goldderby.com and use the Gold Derby app to make your predictions and see if you can outsmart the top prognosticators in Hollywood. Thanks
if
again,
I may,
yes,
if I may,
please.
Speaking of, I'm so awkward at self-promoting, as I've just evidenced again. But I love the show Brockmire so much. We're a cult hit, which is code for a great show that not enough people watch. So please take the Brockmire Challenge, Emmy voters. Look, it's all on Hulu. 8 episodes per 4 season, 22 minutes. That's one quarantine afternoon. Watch first 5 minutes, episode 1, season 1. First 5 minutes. If you don't laugh out loud, you have my permission to stop. But I think you will, and if you do, please keep watching. The narrative is as strong as the laughs, and take a look. If you're lucky enough to have your biggest problem be during this time that you don't know what to watch next, check us out and You won't regret it.
I wholeheartedly second that because if you, just like you said, if you don't laugh during the first 5 minutes, there's no hope.
I can't help you if you don't laugh.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Hank.
Thanks, Charlie.